You've been hearing how some big brands are winning through simplicity. But don't get intimidated. You can do this too, no matter the size of your team or your budget. Want to learn the 6 behaviors you can instill to create simple experiences for your customers and your team members? Download a free copy of my Simple Playbook today. It'll help you immediately turn your customer experience around and create an Amazon experience without having an Amazon budget. Grab your copy of my Simple Playbook at mattlyles.com/simpleplaybook.
Welcome to the Simple Brand Podcast, the show dedicated to helping you create simple experiences for your customers and for your team members. Each week, we're bringing you amazing interviews with business leaders and authors who will teach you how to differentiate your business with the one thing your customers need the most: simplicity. Your customers live in a complex world. Let's make it simple. Now, here's your host, Matt Lyles.
Wow. Happy New Year and welcome to 2021. I am so excited for this upcoming year, and I'm excited about the guests that we have planned and the content that we have planned for Simple Brand with Matt Lyles. I'm looking forward to all that we have in store for you. But before we even jump into that, I do want to take a quick recap. And I want to revisit some of the standout lessons that we learned in 2020. We had a lot of guests on here, and we've learned lots of valuable lessons around creating simple experiences for your customers and creating simple experiences for your people. But there's a handful of standout lessons that I want to share with you in this recap. And this episode right here is going to focus on those lessons around simple experiences for your customers. We're going to go through and play a handful of clips from some of the standout guests and some of the lessons that I think are really going to help you understand what it means to create a simple experience for your customers. And if you haven't heard those episodes already, then after this, go back and dig back into them so you can get even more in-depth lessons from these guests. The first lesson we're going to hear today is a recap from episode number 2 with Heather Hyman and how she talks about one of the most important things you need to remember and the most important things you need to define when you're building your brand. I teach this to a number of business owners when they're defining their brand and when they're defining who their customers are. Too many people say, well, my customer is everybody. If you're between the age of 9 and 99, well, then you're my customer. No. If you try to be all things to all people, then sadly, you're going to end up being nothing to nobody. So it's super important for you to understand in depth who your ideal customer is. And then from there, you can understand what type of experience they want. You can understand what type of content they want. You can understand how that customer wants you to talk to them. And that's where you're going to find the most success. But Heather describes it much better than I do. So let's listen into what Heather says.
The reality is everyone is not your customer, and that is not a negative. I think sometimes people say, oh, I've got this product, and this is for anyone that's 9 to 99. I've heard that a couple times, Matt. And I say, actually, no. You may have a lot of people buying your products. Yes, you might have people of varied ages, but at the end of the day, especially I think to stand out, and unless you have a huge budget of like what maybe Target or Starbucks or McDonald's does, and yes, they serve a huge wide variety of people, I think you're going to have much better success in really knowing your specific audience. If you're a wedding videographer, do a lot of people get married and do a lot of people want to have a videographer? Sure. But do you want to maybe be known as the videographer in the southeastern United States? And maybe the majority of your audience like love college football and they love family and they love like just X, Y, and Z topics. Well, if you embrace that, rather than, let's say, trying to take on the world at first, especially, and I keep bringing this up because this is really relative. We all do not have endless amounts of money or time to market ourselves. And so I think that the videographer or even anyone listening right now, you're going to have much better success really getting laser focused on who that dream audience is and allowing yourself to believe and realize, oh, okay, there are other people. Maybe my dream customer shops at Trader Joe's and they're not the coupon clipper, and because that's going to impact the type of content you post on social media. And this is one of the things so many people get wrong, Matt, is every post, everything is matchy branded for that really awesome logo and those awesome colors that they got someone to pick out. And every single post is a buy this from me. And they aren't realizing that their people that they're trying to connect with on social media are real human beings. And that you're actually, as a business, your number one job is to try to get people to stop scrolling. And so the more you almost have like this part of your branding that says, oh, they're human. So what I'm going to do is say in one GIF, tell me what you have planned this weekend. And I suddenly see I went from like a ghost town on my social media to suddenly 29 people have responded in the last hour. Well, it's because it's easy. You didn't just ask me for like the greatest moment of my life and I had to like ponder. It was mindless. It was simple. I could engage with you. And then people begin to like want to interact with your brand, which goes on to so many other cool things in marketing, which depending on the algorithm and all the things, it helps the other content that you do want them to really see, which is maybe telling them about that product or that offering. But you've got to remember at the forefront, these are people that you're trying to connect with. So if you don't have that strong foundation in place and you don't know who you're trying to talk to and you don't know what you have to serve them, then all the logistics on what button to click on Twitter or what graphic to do or should it be a video is kind of obsolete if you really don't know what you stand for, who you serve, and how you can help them.
That's a powerful lesson from Heather right there. And it's true. If you haven't clearly defined who you are and who you stand for, and then after that, defining exactly who it is you help and exactly who it is you serve, then it doesn't matter what tactics you do. It doesn't matter what technology you invest in. It doesn't matter what sort of marketing or ad budget you have. It's all going to be for nothing. Before you do anything, you have to know and define exactly who it is that you serve. And you'll be so much more successful when you do. But now the next step, once you've defined who it is you serve, you've got to fully understand that person. You have to understand everything about them and understand everything they go through. Otherwise, you're not going to know the best way to serve them. I'm talking about empathy here. I'm talking about empathizing with them. And again, empathy is not just some fluffy word. Empathy really is all about understanding your customer and understanding their pains and understanding their challenges and what they go through on a day-to-day basis so that you can know exactly how to talk to them, so that you can know exactly what experience to give them, so that you know exactly how to serve them. And in this episode with master copywriter Ray Edwards, he gives a very clear definition of what it means to have empathy with a customer in order to serve them better. Let's listen to Ray.
Empathy means look the person that you're speaking to in the eye and listen to what they're saying until you can understand the world they live in, understand the pain they're feeling. So that involves first knowing who the person is that you're writing to, who's your customer, who's your perfect customer, what is the pain they experience that you can help them solve. You can't take on all their pain because you can't fix all their pain, but there are certain areas of pain you can relieve if you have a business or a service, or even if you're an artist or a comedian or a performer, you're solving a problem for people. You're helping assuage pain, if you will, the pain of boredom, perhaps the pain of sadness, but pain nonetheless. And then that solves a problem. And the problem is maybe it's temporary sadness, maybe it's being distracted, maybe it's something more serious, maybe it's depression, maybe it's physical pain, maybe it's financial pain. But that's the source of the pain is always a problem. So the person, the problem, and the pain are the three primary focuses you make up front. That's how you establish empathy.
Here's something really important as you look at your business and as you look at the experience that you provide. You're not dealing with account holders. You're not dealing with users. You're not dealing with numbers. You're not dealing with subscribers. You're dealing with and you're serving people, actual people. And every person has some sort of problem that they're facing externally. And that external problem provides them with some sort of internal pain. So people, problem, and pain. As Ray Edwards says, that's how you think of how you're going to establish empathy. When you think of the people that you serve, ask them questions. Listen to their responses. Read their responses. But not only that, actually observe them. Because sometimes observing them will help you see some things that they don't recognize themselves. So listen to what they're saying. Observe how they're going about their day. Observe how they're going about trying to accomplish everything that they're trying to do each day. And that's going to help you understand their external problems and their internal pains. And that's empathy. Empathy is so important that I've actually defined it as one of the 6 key behaviors in providing a simple experience. Empathize with your customers. Once you fully understand your customers and you understand their external problems and their internal pains, then you'll understand what experience they need from you, and you'll understand how to build and define that experience. But as you go about defining and building your customer experience, you need to take it one step at a time. You need to focus on one area first instead of trying to focus on too many things. Because when you try and provide too many things to your customer, not only might they get overwhelmed, but you'll get overwhelmed and you'll only provide a small amount of effort to each thing that you're trying to build. So instead of trying to build too many things at once, build it one step at a time. That goes with any products and services you're providing, but that also applies with the content that you're providing your customers. And in this episode with Melanie Diesel, we talk about just that. Let's listen in.
I think one of the things we feel pushed to do or feel pressure to do when we're jumping into content or launching a new content initiative is to try to do everything everywhere all at once. And when you decide suddenly that you're going to launch a YouTube series, a new blog, you're going to start posting on Instagram every single day, and you're going to do a new podcast, what you end up with is a lot of stress and a lot of content that you couldn't give your full time and attention to. And I think your audience can feel that. So rather than feeling like you have to be everything to everyone, everywhere, all at once, my biggest recommendation is to choose what you believe to be the most impactful piece of content or series of content you can create. Do that consistently at a quality level. And then once you're comfortable, add in the additional platforms or content series to the mix. So rather than trying to dive in and do everything all at once and risk burning yourself out or disappointing your audience when you can't keep up, start with one, do it really well, and then build incrementally as you go.
And once you focus on just a few of those, I think it makes it easier to repurpose your existing content that you've already created and then start pushing to expanding formats.
Yeah, when you know what you do really well, it kind of narrows it down. So I think that's one of the things, I get that question sometimes, I can't create all of the formats that are on the framework, for example, and that's okay. Again, this is just designed to help you think in a different way, help you come up with new ideas. You don't necessarily need to execute on all of them. So For example, maybe you're only working on a podcast right now. Maybe that's where your full attention is. Well, then really just focus on audio. Focus on telling different stories through audio. But it's worth noting that you probably need some sort of text for a show notes page. So maybe think about written content as well as audio. Or maybe you're thinking, well, if I create the podcast with video as well, then I have an additional format and I can always extract the audio later. So you'll start to see again which ones pair really well with each other, so that you could not only repurpose your content, but make the most of the content that you do have.
So like Melanie says, whether you're approaching your content or whether you're approaching the products and services you're creating, anything in your customer experience, you need to build with intentionality, and you need to build it one step at a time. But then as you're building it, again, you want to empathize with your customer and understand, how can I make this simple for them? How can I make it really clear as to what they're supposed to do? How can I make things as easy as possible for them and provide them with a frictionless experience? When we move too quickly, when we start building something based on our own perspective and not on our customer's perspective, then that's when friction can creep in. What is friction? Friction is anything that makes your customer experience difficult for your customers. And I can think of no better person to give a definition of friction than Roger Dooley. Roger Dooley actually wrote the book on friction. He calls it Friction. But let's hear what Roger has to say about providing a frictionless experience.
Well, first of all, everybody thinks they know about friction, and it seems like too simple of a topic almost, especially like the closer you get to Silicon Valley, where people have been designing frictionless experiences and frictionless onboarding and so on. They say, oh, well, yeah, we know about that. But what I've found is, if everybody knows about friction, then why do we see so much of it in our daily experience when we try and buy things online or in person, when we try and get customer service and so on? So, to me, friction is unnecessary effort in any process. And that relates to simplicity and complexity too, because complexity adds friction, simplicity reduces friction. And, just today I was working with a financial website online, and I could not figure out what to do. Now, I'm pretty good at figuring out websites and user experiences, and but I was stymied, and I had to keep clicking on stuff and experimenting to see, how I could get to the function that I wanted to get to. Now, if that company, which was actually a very big brand, monitors their customer behaviors, they will eventually notice that, people seem to be clicking on a lot of stuff and not necessarily accomplishing anything. And that's true whether you're in the e-commerce business or service business or anything else. There is so much wasted effort. And let me tell you why it's important, Matt. There's some amazing research from the Gartner Group, a big research company, that evaluated customer service interactions. So when customers had to interact with customer service for a brand, what they found was that customers who had a high effort experience were about 10 times as likely to be disloyal to that brand as those who had a low effort experience. Pretty similar numbers for repeat purchases, with almost everybody repeat purchasing on the low effort experience and very few on the high effort experience. And the most amazing statistic was on people saying bad things about the brand. 88% of the people who had that high effort experience said that they would be likely to say bad things about the brand, say on social media or leaving reviews and such. We know how important those are, compared to just 1% of low effort customers. So effort really drives customer loyalty, drives customer behavior. And that is why I see friction as being so important. And that's true whether you're a big brand or a little brand. People's impression of their effort in dealing with you is what counts. If somebody, you may look at your competition and say, wow, we're a lot easier to do business with than our competitors. But if that customer perceives that it's a high effort experience because what they're used to is dealing with Amazon, dealing with Uber, and your experience is not as smooth as those, then they're going to say that's a high effort experience, and you're going to have some of those negative effects on loyalty and other customer behavior.
There you have it. If you want your customers to be loyal, if you want your customers to share your name in a good way with their friends and their neighbors, if you want more people to do business with you, then you've got to provide an effortless experience. And listen, it can't just be effortless compared to your direct competitors. Today in 2021, customers are comparing you not just to your direct competitors, but they're comparing you to every single brand experience they have. No matter what your business is, you're being compared to the effortless experience of Uber, of Amazon, of the Domino's pizza tracker. So you've got to be able to provide the same effortless, frictionless experience. And one thing that can cause a bit of friction in your customer experience is your customer not having the clarity to know what to do next. A lot of times we think that what our customers should do is intuitive, and it's intuitive based on our perspective as the business owner, our perspective as the creator of that experience. But if we don't fully empathize and fully understand what that customer's seeing, then we may not be seeing how less than clear our experience that we provide actually is. Now, in one episode, I talked with Grant Baldwin. Grant Baldwin's the author of The Successful Speaker. We talked about what it takes to provide a great presentation and a great talk. And one of those lessons in there actually serves as a fantastic lesson for providing clarity in your customer experience. As your customers are moving throughout your customer experience, as your customers are reading and seeing whatever content you're providing to them, they're asking themselves 2 questions. And you need to be able to intuitively answer those questions to them every single time. If you don't answer those 2 questions, then your customer is going to get confused and they're going to leave you. Let's hear what Grant has to say about what those 2 questions are. And when you hear about these 2 questions, think about how you can answer those 2 questions in every step of your customer experience.
Yeah. So whenever you are, some of this would already have been done in the kind of the proposal process, as you're getting really, really clear about who you speak to, what it is that you're going to be speaking about, and kind of what the point of the talk is. You always want to, you're creating a talk, you always want to begin with the end in mind. Like what's the point of a talk? And so anytime you're creating a presentation, especially if it's a new presentation, one you haven't done before, the audience is always asking themselves 2 questions. They're always asking themselves, so what and now what? So what and now what? So what? That's an interesting story you told. So what? What does that have to do with me? What am I supposed to do as a result of that? And the now what part is now what? How do I apply this? How do I implement it? What do I do at this point? Because you don't want an audience to leave a talk and be like, that was interesting, but like, so what? I don't understand what it had to do with me. Or now what? I don't understand what I'm supposed to do as a result of it. So the audience is always asking themselves those 2 questions. So as a speaker, especially when you're creating a new presentation, you want to be creating a talk through that lens and make sure that you're clear on those 2 things of so what, why does this matter, and now what are they supposed to do as a result. In addition, I would also say the principle from Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where it talks about beginning with the end in mind, of just like beginning with the end, like where is it that you want this talk to go? What is the point of this talk? Why should it matter to the audience? So beginning with the end in mind, thinking through the so what, the now what, and then kind of creating the roadmap of what it is that you want to communicate from there.
Wow. So what and now what? Those are the questions that your customers are asking in every interaction they have with you, throughout your customer experience and throughout any content or communications or advertising that they come in contact with. So if you want to provide a frictionless, effortless experience to your customers, then at every interaction, every step of the way, you need to lay things out and make sure that everything is so crystal clear that your customer knows the answer to, so what? Why is this important? And now what? What's the call to action that you want them to take right now? Because if it's not clear, they're going to simply walk away. And as you think about each step in your customer experience, you need to understand that your customers expect a consistent experience along the way. If you start out with a really, really great experience, if you start out with really great service and really clear messaging, but along the way, it gets a little less clear, it gets a little less great, and so on, then your customer is not going to have a great overall experience. Throughout every interaction, you want the customer to think, oh, wow, what are they going to do next? I'm excited to see the next step. I'm excited about the entire sum of interactions that I've had. I'm excited about everything that I've seen from this company. Instead of them saying, well, at one point it was really great, but then a lot of other points it was really bad. So overall, my feeling is kind of meh. And that's what Andrew Davis and I talked about. Too many brands are providing simply a meh experience overall. And you've got to understand that your brand is built on the sum total of all the interactions that you provide. Andrew's defined this really well with what he calls the loyalty loop. And that's how every customer makes a commitment throughout every interaction your customer experience. And along the way, how are you gaining that customer's loyalty every single time? Let's listen in and hear Andrew explain it.
So think of it this way, Matt. If you take, if somebody fills out a form on your website, that is what I call a moment of commitment. It's an instant in time when somebody trades money, data, or time for some information or to buy a product or a service, right? Yeah. Or maybe even to support a cause. It could work for a nonprofit too. Well, after you fill out that information, let's say it's for an appointment to have a chat, right? Like schedule a call with somebody. The experience after that is lacking with most people. And you can attach an emoji in the client's mind of what they would attach to each of those interactions. Like I tried to go for a test drive for a Volvo. I was trying to buy a car, and I went on a test drive with a Volvo dealership, and I had filled out the form to make the appointment. And the email I got confirming the appointment was awful. Like it included things like, if you'd like to cancel this appointment or reschedule, please call or text, insert salesperson phone here. Like it literally said that. And
I don't find that one in my phone contacts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no number. It's just so sad, right? So if I'm going to attach an emoji to that, it actually makes me angry. And it's very easy to differentiate your product or service by showing people how you're different instead of telling them you're different. Create a great experience after every moment of commitment, and you can create this loop, this spiral experience that gets people to pay more for the services and products you sell than ever before. So I could talk about it for hours, Matt, but I hope I explained it okay. Like I'm drawing it in the air, by the way.
I can see it.
Yeah, good. Okay, good.
For you listening, it looks real nice.
It's real nice. It's air drawing. Yeah. It's like air guitar, except better.
That's one of the things that I try to teach people is that your brand is not about your logo or your tagline or your colors or any of that stuff. Your brand is the sum total of all experiences that you provide a customer. Yeah. And if you get maybe a great experience signing up, but then everything after that is an angry emoji experience, well, then the sum total experiences, that's not good.
Yeah, you're dead on. Like honestly, the average company, most companies, I would say, most experiences are just meh emojis. So like okay, right? Some make you angry, like the Volvo dealership, and some make you unbelievably happy. But those are the minority. Most experiences are the exact experiences that your competitor provides, which means you're not showing me you're different. Your website may say we're the most trusted, best, most unbelievable in the world, but if your experience is exactly like the worst in the business, how does that make me feel? Like I was trying to buy a new garage door recently. And I got 3 garage door quotes, and the experience from all 3 of them was exactly the same, and it was mediocre at best, right? Wow. if you want to differentiate yourself, it's so easy. The table stakes are so low right now that you can make an impact. Like, I'll give you a simple example. If you make an appointment with anyone, any prospect, any client, what do you do between the time you make the appointment and the time of the actual appointment to increase their anticipation for that meeting? That's it. Just answer that question, because most people do nothing. All they do is send you a confirmation email in Google Calendar, say, I'll talk to you on 11:30 of whatever day, and they expect you to show up with enthusiasm to have that meeting. You're just another meeting on the books, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. They're not excited about that. But the people who deliver a phenomenal experience raise anticipation for each step in their journey, and that makes people more and more excited about the product or service you're selling.
Wow. Bad news. Customers are expecting a consistent experience across every single interaction they have with you. But good news, the table stakes are so low because most brands are providing a meh overall experience that you can really brand out from the crowd. And if you create your customer experience in a way where it raises the customer's anticipation at every step along their journey, then you're really going to brand out from the crowd. Now, all these lessons that we've been hearing about help you understand what you can do to provide a simple experience to your customers. And that's what this podcast is about, and it's in the name, Simple Brand. Now, a lot of what I've learned about creating and providing simple experiences actually came from Siegel Gale. They're the true simplicity experts. So I was so excited and so grateful to be able to talk with Margaret Malloy, CMO of Siegel Gale, earlier this year. And while I have my own definition of what a simple experience is, Siegel Gale and Margaret have one. And Margaret Malloy provides a much more elegant definition of what a simple experience is. Let's hear how Margaret defines it.
So at Siegel and Gale, we talk about simplicity as the intersection of clarity and surprise, creating experiences for customers that are both remarkably clear and unexpectedly fresh. So if something is just clear, it runs the risk of being dull. If something's just fresh and fun, it runs the risk of not achieving the desired outcomes. So that gorgeous intersection of clarity and surprise. Now, to make that very tangible, we think of the dimensions of simplicity because, frankly, it's quite an abstract term. And often, I find in talking to CMOs, it can be misunderstood, but most often too narrowly defined. So the dimensions. The first dimension of simplicity, ease of understanding. Second, transparency and honesty. Third, communicating that customers' needs are being fulfilled. So that's the clarity of communications, innovation and freshness, and usefulness or utility. So it's the blend of those functional components with an insertion of the beautiful. And when you have a customer experience that's truly simple, it's seamless, but also you have that emotional reaction that says, wow, that is so simple. And you have that aha part. And that's why clarity is first principles, but you need to add the freshness, the usefulness, the transparency, the honesty to really get to a comprehensive definition of simplicity.
When we talk about simplicity and providing simple experiences, of course, there are a number of ways to define it. But I think the most important way to define it is the way that your customers define it. So it's on you. It's on you to understand what your customers are expecting. It's on you to understand what your customers define as a simple experience. And once you know that, then you can provide it, and you'll win every time. I don't know about you, but I really loved going back and recapping some of the biggest lessons I learned from 2020 as it relates to providing simple experiences for your customers. But good news, I have another 2020 recap episode that focuses all on how you can provide a simple experience to your people. Providing a simple experience to your employees and to your people is just as important as providing a simple experience to your customers. So head on over to the podcast and check out my other 2020 recap episode. And as we finish recapping 2020, I'm excited about 2021. I have a number of guests lined up for 2021 to bring even more lessons to you. Lots of new guests, lots of new authors, lots of new books, and maybe one or two repeat guests that I'm excited to have back on the podcast again. And if you're enjoying the Simple Brand podcast, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. When you subscribe, you'll automatically get access to new episodes as soon as they're available. Until then, keep it simple.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Simple Brand Podcast. Want to make your listening experience simple and automatically receive each new episode? Visit our website, simplebrandpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. If you're finding value from the Simple Brand Podcast, leave us a rating or review. That helps us get the show to the ears of the people who need it most. Be sure to catch Matt right here next week. Same Matt time, same Matt channel. Until then, keep it simple.